Moving on now, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has expressed that United States' commitment to talks aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine is on the talks. Well, this as Russian and Ukrainian negotiators are to have the talks in Abu Dhabi, which is characterized by the first day of a new round of negotiations as productive and substantive. They said that the meetings are set to carry out on into the second day.
I want to say talks alone are progress, but it's good that there's engagement going on. I would also caution everyone that on things like this, because there's a lot of sensitivities involved in it, progress is probably not going to be known, even via leaks, until we really have a breakthrough.
The U.S. mediated talks are the latest in a flurry of diplomacy that has so far failed to strike a deal to halt the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stressed that negotiations had to lead to real peace and not provide Russia with a new opportunity to continue the war.
The war must truly be brought to an end. Russia must be ready for this. Partners must also be ready to ensure this with real guarantees, security guarantees, and real pressure on the aggressor. It must also be felt now. People in Ukraine must feel that the situation is genuinely moving toward peace and the end of the war, not toward Russia using everything to its advantage and continuing attacks.
Shortly after the talks began on Wednesday, Russian forces struck a crowded market in eastern Ukraine with cluster munitions, killing at least 7 people and wounding 15. Zelensky underscored the human toll from the war, noting that over 55,000 of his country's troops have been killed. It marks a rare assessment of battlefield losses that both Moscow and Kyiv have not typically provided. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the content of the talks was on military and military-political issues without elaborating. The main sticking point in settling the war is the long-term fate of territory in eastern Ukraine. Moscow is demanding that Kyiv pull its troops out of the swatches of the Donbass as a precondition of any deal. It also wants international recognition that land seized in the invasion, which belongs to Russia. Ukraine has warned that ceding ground will embolden Moscow and it will not sign a deal that fails to deter Russia from invading again. As negotiations continue, Europe says it has been sidelined in the process. This even as France and Britain lead efforts to put together a peacekeeping force that could be deployed to Ukraine after any deal. Earlier, we spoke to Ambassador John Bolton, former assistant to the President for National Security Affairs and former United States ambassador to the UN. Here's what he said on the current state of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine.
Trump is succeeding because I don't think the parties are really growing any closer. I think what Vladimir Putin and the Russians are trying to do is recreate the Russian Empire, and they need Ukraine to do that. So they're taking a very long perspective. And I do think that Zelensky now understands that security guarantees from Trump are not necessarily reliable, which makes it harder for him to agree to a ceasefire where he might lose the potential for American weapons support and intelligence support. So this is the kind of circumstance where the parties just have an unbridgeable gap at the moment, and I don't see what changes in the near term.